Good morning, everyone. Guys, the situation in Ukraine is not going away. There's all sorts of wild stuff in the media today, but none of it makes any sense. And I'm going to tell you what is going to happen. So yesterday, I think it was yesterday. I'll try and link the video at the end of this. I'll try and put a link at the end of this video. In fact, I will put a link at the end of this video. Yesterday, I said that I'd spoken to my guys in Ukraine, and again, this was from the day before. So I think it was yesterday morning when I posted the video, and I said that the Russians are looking like they're going to be doing a multi-pronged attack on lots of, various different locations in the east. Multiple locations in the east of Ukraine. I also, I talked about how I don't think the Ukrainians have anything left to push. I don't have anything left to hold them with, and that's kind of what I was hearing from my guys out there in Ukraine who are looking at the open source intelligence. They're looking at social media reports, and they're putting all this together holistically to give an intelligence report. Now, one of the things that really does astound me is nothing is hidden anymore. And I always say this, with the military, with these conflicts that are going on, all this information's out there, readily available on open source, open source platforms. Now, the problem is there's a lot of disinformation as well, and counter information and counter arguments, counter opinions. So if you know what information to take and what information to understand, you can understand what's coming in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, etc. So that's why yesterday, I said, listen, guys, I'm being told that the Russians are about to do a large scale advance on multiple fronts. Anyway, then yesterday afternoon, this article came out from Zelensky himself, the Uncle Zelensky. So Russia plans to involve North Korea in war in Ukraine this fall. So for those of us who speak proper English, fall is autumn, when stuff falls off the trees. Russia plans to involve North Korea directly in the full-scale war against Ukraine this fall and winter. I don't think any of these leaders have actually called this a full-scale war. I think it's media now that's talking about this as a full-scale war. I don't think Putin's come up there and he said this is a full-scale war. Equally, I don't think Zelensky's come out and said this is a full-scale war either. So, I don't think we're in a situation in the world where we're ever going to have a war announced in an official manner. So President Volodymyr Zelensky said on the 14th, citing intelligence data. So I think he's getting this, the data is coming from the same places that I got this, and a lot of this is open source. A lot of this is readily available for anyone with an internet connection to go and look at. The announcement comes days after Zelensky warned of an increasing alliance between Moscow and Pyongyang. I think that's how you pronounce it. According to Ukraine's military intelligence, Russia plans for the fall and winter include the actual involvement of North Korea in the war, Zelensky said. Now, guys, we've got to understand what this actually means, because, the code word for North Korea is actually Chinese, because North Korea they don't really do it. They don't do anything unless, Big Brother China gives them the thumbs up. China funds a lot of North Korean projects. China is heavily involved in North Korea. China share a border with North Korea. So when these articles come out talking about the North Koreans being involved in this war, this fall, this autumn, this winter, what this actually means is the Russians are seeking heavily, more reliance on Chinese manpower now. Now, this could mean a few things. This could mean that the Chinese, when I say North Koreans from now on, guys, we kind of need to understand that the Chinese will have, well, it's my speculation and it's my analysis that the Chinese are heavily involved in the North Korean military. Now, if we look at these pacts, these agreements, these alliances, if we talk about the Chinese alliance with North Korea, we'll understand that these things are interchangeable, like the West is interchangeable, the United Kingdom with NATO, with the United States. Right now, we know that we've got from the German, I think it was the German defense minister, we know that, according to him, British special forces are working in Ukraine. So what you can speculate from this is, with these North Korean troops, you would consider, and you would think there's a high likelihood that behind the scenes there will be a number of Chinese consultants, Chinese special forces, that will be forward deploying with these guys to look at the situation. Now, this brings me back to 1936, when the Germans were actively involved in the Spanish Civil War. And a lot of people said that this was where the Germans really honed their military skills and they understood how their military worked, because without actually getting on the ground and seeing how things work for yourselves, you just can't do it. It's like trying to pass your driving test and all you've ever done is simulation. Yes, of course, you'd be able to operate a car, but being able to operate a car in a simulator is totally different to being able to operate a car on the open road, when you're dealing with different weather conditions. You're dealing with other drivers that are unpredictable. You're dealing with pedestrians that are somewhat unpredictable. So there's this whole host of holistic outside factors that come into these conflicts. But anyway, so it's looking like North Korea is going to be officially entering this war in fall, in autumn or winter. Now, there's a lot of articles already saying that the North Koreans are involved in this conflict. So if they're already involved, they're already involved. But what I'm talking about now is there's more weight, there's more credibility now to this big push, in a couple of weeks' time. So if we think about that, and we think about the time that it takes to switch fire from one conflict to another, because the media cycle has dried up, this would fit perfectly into these timelines. Now, I would think this has to come just before the US election, or right on. I mean, I don't see how, you've got to understand strategically, because when you take these decision-making processes back, at some point, there's always some politicians sat there. And unfortunately, politicians are in politics because they're political. Now, these guys will have a choice. Do they make a ton of money or do they not? So what do you think they're going to choose? Do you think these politicians, they're going to choose? Do you think they're going to choose to make a ton of money, or do you think they're going to choose not to make a ton of money? Of course, they're going to choose to make a ton of money. Now, the big money's to be made here to be able to influence the US election. Now, you're only going to be able to influence the US election before the US election. You kind of can't influence it after it's done. So I'm going to speculate that this would have to come before the US election. But either way, it kind of doesn't really matter at this point, because, all roads are leading to the same conflict. All roads are leading to a global conflict of an industrial, on an industrial scale. What we need to understand now, guys, though, moving forwards, is the word North Korea is synonymous now with China. I don't think there's much, especially when you're talking about military cooperation, military ties, military industrial complex. These two places are interchangeable. So now every time I do a video and I say North Korea, just in the back of your head, think, right, okay, that's interchangeable with China. That's code for China. Because, guys, be under no illusion, it's, what, guys, I'm going to think, no, it's fair. It's fair to say that North Korea would struggle to do anything without the thumbs up from China. Equally, if China didn't want the North Koreans involved in this conflict, guess what? They're not getting involved in this conflict, because China really does prop up the North Korean regime. So that's kind of the situation at the moment. That's the tactical situation from the front line. That's the strategic situation. That's what's going to be going on in the next couple of weeks. What I just thought I'm going to share with you now, real quick, guys, is there's a female unit in Ukraine, and they're called the Witches of Bucha. Let me just show you the picture, because it's just wild. I'll just show you the headline. Hang on. It's scary, but so's giving birth. The female unit gunning down Russian drones. So these are the witches of Bucha. Or how would you say that in Ukrainian? Bucha. The Witches of Bucha are a volunteer defense unit made up almost entirely of women. when it's dark, when dark falls over Bucha, the witches come out, because that's when the Russian attack drones are swarming. So here you've got, you know, a group of women, and they're doing this on a voluntary basis, going out there, trying to shoot Russian drones down. You know, and I think it's just, you know, when we talk about the situation in Ukraine and we talk about what life is like out there, it's really difficult to contextualize this. Can you imagine now in the UK, you know, a bunch of women getting a load of, you know, equipment off the military and going and starting your own volunteer unit up? It's absolutely, like, the stuff that's happening out there, it's absolutely insane. And when you look at this holistically, you know, you just understand there really is no chance of peace. You know, where's the peace protests going on in Kiev? Where's the peace protests going on in, you know, in Russia? It's not happening. And then, remember, I always say that, you know, soldiers win battles, but countries win wars. You know, and we found this in Afghanistan in, like, well, a few years after the conflict. You know, the people in the United Kingdom had just forgotten about it. You know, nobody really cared. You know, I was coming back from Afghanistan in what years was it? Like 2006, 2007, maybe 2008, and the media just, like, forgot about what was happening. And when we was operating in Afghanistan, this was a high tempo conflict. There was a lot of intensity out there. There was a lot of kinetic movements between enemy troops, and, you know, it was hard work. And then you come back to the UK and you come back home and nobody cared. No, absolutely nobody cared. People were more interested about, you know, a new song that had been released or a dress that a celebrity had wore. And I always think, wow, there are people coming back in body bags and nobody cares. All they care about is, you know, celebrity dresses. And, you know, the nation didn't want that war anymore, you know, and, you know, and it really shows. And once that happens, public loses interest. You know, you can't get any support, and, you know, all the good work that the soldiers do, all the sacrifices that have been happened, it just seems to be for nothing. But what you're looking at right now in Ukraine is, you know, the country has not given up. Now, whereas, you know, you may be able to argue that the military are struggling on the front line, they're struggling with manpower, they're struggling with morale, they're struggling with kit and equipment. I don't think the country of Ukraine has given up. And that's when you're looking at this situation. And remember, you know, I did, in fact, where is it? In fact, it's like that book there. Hang on, let me try and do this. It's backwards, guys. That book there, the foreword in that book talks about the human condition and how you've got to understand the human condition. The human condition is that such. We're always trying to drive. We're always trying to succeed. We're always trying to make our situation better. We always want more for ourselves. That's the human condition, guys, all right? If you want to complain about the human condition, go and live in some woods and forage for berries and nuts, because that's where you will be. You know, you will have no access to healthcare. You'll have no vehicles. You'll have no combustion engines. You'll have no jet engines. You will have no air travel. All this stuff that we've produced is because of the human condition. Now, in fact, guys, you know what? I'm going to do I'll do a separate video on the human condition, but people don't understand the human condition, and they don't understand that we're apex predators and we want to succeed. And a byproduct of that is it's our biggest asset and our biggest curse, because ultimately it will keep pushing us to fail. And when we fail, we'll build ourselves back up and we'll rebuild and we'll make things better. And then we'll get to a stage where we fall again. And that is humanity, guys. You know, we keep doing it. And if people are trying to, you know, deny this, you know, you're denying that you're human. But anyway, guys, without going too deep into it, that was the jux of the video. You know, massive escalation involving North Koreans is looking like it's going to be coming. Autumn, I think it's going to have to happen before the US election. So, you know, I don't know when the official date. I mean, I suppose different people will say autumn's at different times depending on what country you are. There's a geographical there's like a geographical autumn, and then there's a local autumn. But anyway, guys, it is coming. You know, I said I did a video on it yesterday. I said this was coming. Mainstream media are now reporting on it. Obviously, in the next couple of weeks, you'll get more articles reporting on this. How they're looking like the Russians are doing are looking like they're going to be doing a big push on multiple fronts. And then we've got the Witches of Bucha, or Bucha Vidjma, as I think you would say in Ukrainian or Russian. Guys, my Russian and Ukrainian, because when I lived in Ukraine, I would ask somebody how you say something, and they would either tell me in Russian or they would tell me in Ukrainian. And in my head, I can't differentiate between the two, so I speak a mix of Russian and Ukrainian, and I struggle to understand which is which. But guys, please forgive me if I'm butchering that pronouncement. But anyway, guys, I'm going to Max a grid. I'll get you guys another video later.